Sally, last week we talked about where some sports have been moved to on the calendar. Some questions have come up regarding volleyball. Does the high school volleyball season now conflict with the club season? And how much consideration was put into club seasons?
Currently, it does conflict with the club season. We've been getting a lot of questions from club volleyball parents as to, can we have this season in May and June after the club season? However, we can't move volleyball to May and June. We have over 140 volleyball teams. And of those 140, I would say about 100 of them do not have club kids, and they have multi-sport athletes. So when we placed volleyball, we had to place it in a part in the calendar where kids would be able to participate in basketball and their spring sport, track and field or softball. And so that is why we needed to put it right in between. Yeah, it's not ideal, but we need to make sure we're doing what's best for all student athletes.
Will the NMAA change the maximum number of matches a student can play during that time?
We're still looking at that. I'm working with the club world. I have a volleyball liaison that I'm working with, and we're trying to figure out what we do. However, right now, at the beginning of November, it's still too early to decide what's going to happen in March. And it's like, well, will we get to play more games? Will we not? Is it going to conflict? What's going to happen? Can they go to tournaments? Right now, I think what we need to do is sit back and wait. And then we need to see what is going to develop in the club world. Are they going to have the same tournaments that they had before? There's one major tournament in Colorado, and that tournament, Colorado is playing high school volleyball the same time as we are. And the club teams in Colorado have decided that they will not play any games during that time. So we don't even know if this large club volleyball tournament is going to happen in Colorado. Also, JP, is the quarantine. If a kid leaves and let's say, hey, we say, yes, you can go play club volleyball tournaments, they go out of state, and if we still have 14-day quarantine guidelines, then they can't come back and play high school. So there's so many entities that we just need to wait on and just relax and see what happens as it gets closer to March.
A national study out of Wisconsin has gotten a lot of attention lately, saying that high school sports have not spread the coronavirus. Where does the NMAA stand on that theory?
That is a very good study. We did our own survey. It was not scientific. I will never sit here and tell you that it was scientific. We just decided to ask our schools how many kids participated in your 9-to-1 pod. So we did it back when it was 9-to-1. And of those kids, how many had COVID? And of those kids that had COVID, how many spread it between each other in the pods? We were just looking to see what the data was as to see if our guidelines were effective. And after that survey, it does show that our guidelines are very similar to Wisconsin's study. We want to look at that study to see if it can be helpful for New Mexico. But what we do know from just our survey is the guidelines and the protocols that we have put in place are effective to keeping kids safe.
Dear Governor Grisham,
over the last several weeks, we've seen protests by parents and athletes. The NMAA Student Leadership Advisory Council put together a message to send to the governor. Schools like Clovis produced a video asking the governor to let us play. It goes on and on and on. Do you think those actions are helping the cause to try and get high school athletes back on the field?
I hope the governor's listening. And this is not coming from the NMAA. This is coming from our local kids, our kids that are tired and they want to play. It's coming from our coaches. It's coming from athletic directors. So it's not coming from our office. So I am very hopeful that the governor is listening as to these kids. They just want to get back into school and to play sports.
Lastly, the calendar's been changed. We're now waiting for the second semester to begin. What's your focus right now as the executive director of the NMAA?
I think the focus right now is to stay positive. Somebody says, Sally, are you getting tired of being positive? Is it overkill? And it's not, because our kids need to hear some positive messages. I think right now our coaches and our athletic directors need to focus in on the emotional well-being of our students and making sure that they are working out, that they are doing okay. And then right now, because semester is coming around the corner, we need to focus in on the scholastics of our kids. Scholastic eligibility, where they have a 2.0 and no Fs. We need to make sure that our athletes are passing so that they are able to compete when we can in January through June. So I think that's the focus. I think we need to take a step back we are not going to play until January as of right now. And so what can we do now to prepare for January? And like I said, is we need to keep the kids positive. We need to keep them upbeat. We need to get them to pass every single class. Even though they don't like remote learning, we need them to get in there and to do their studies, because ultimately that does go on a transcript. And we need to stay positive because we are going to play again, New Mexico.